Once upon a time, in a dense and shadowy forest known as the Blackthorn Woods, there stood a village that lived in perpetual fear. The villagers whispered of an ancient curse, a dark spell that twisted the heart of the forest into a place of nightmares. The tale begins with a young girl named Elara, who was curious and brave, but perhaps too much for her own good. Elara had long, ebony hair and eyes as green as the moss that carpeted the forest floor. She was the daughter of a woodcutter, and every day, she would help her father gather firewood from the edges of Blackthorn Woods. Her father always warned her never to venture too deep, for those who did were never seen again. One fateful day, a cold wind whispered through the village, bringing with it a chilling sense of foreboding. Elara's father fell ill, his skin turning ashen and his breath shallow. The village healer shook her head gravely. Only one thing could save him, a flower called the blood moon bloom, which grew at the heart of Blackthorn Woods. No one dared fetch it, for the forest was ruled by an ancient and malevolent spirit known as the Witch of Shadows. Determined to save her father, Elara set out at dusk, armed with nothing but a lantern and her courage. The forest seemed to welcome her with a suffocating embrace, the trees closing in around her, their branches like skeletal fingers. As she walked, the sounds of the village faded, replaced by eerie whispers and rustling leaves that seemed to speak her name. Elara. Elara, they murmured, sending shivers down her spine. She walked for what felt like hours, the path growing more twisted and the darkness deeper. Her lantern flickered as she approached a clearing bathed in an unnatural light. In the center of the clearing stood the blood moon bloom, its petals glowing with a crimson hue. But as she reached out to pluck it, a cold hand gripped her wrist. Elara gasped and turned to see the Witch of Shadows herself, a figure cloaked in darkness, her eyes glowing with a sinister light. The witch's voice was like the rustling of dead leaves. "Who dares enter my domain?" the witch hissed. "I am Elara," she replied, her voice trembling but firm. "I need the blood moon bloom to save my father." The witch's lips curled into a cruel smile. "You are brave, child, but bravery alone will not save you. To take the bloom, you must give me something in return, a secret, a fear, a piece of your soul." Elara's heart pounded. She could feel the weight of the witch's gaze, probing her very being. Summoning her courage, she spoke, "I have no secrets, and I fear only losing my father. But if my soul is the price, then take it." The witch laughed, a sound that echoed through the forest like the tolling of a death knell. "Very well," she said, and with a wave of her hand, Elara felt a part of herself being torn away, leaving an emptiness inside her. The witch released her grip, and Elara plucked the blood moon bloom with trembling hands. As she turned to leave, the witch spoke again. "Remember, child, the forest never forgets, and neither do I." Elara ran through the forest, the shadows closing in behind her, until she finally stumbled out into the village. The villagers gasped at her return, but their relief turned to horror when they saw the emptiness in her eyes. She rushed to the healer, who used the bloom to brew a potion that saved her father. Yet, from that day on, Elara was never the same. She became withdrawn, her once bright eyes now hollow and distant. Years passed, and the tale of Elara's bravery became a legend, a story told to warn children against venturing into the forest. But Elara knew the truth. She felt the forest's call, the pull of the emptiness inside her, growing stronger with each passing day. She could hear the witch's voice in her dreams, whispering promises and threats, until one night, the call became too strong to resist. On a moonless night, Elara slipped away from the village and returned to Blackthorn Woods. The forest welcomed her back, the shadows embracing her like an old friend. She walked to the heart of the forest, to the clearing where the blood moon bloom once grew. There, waiting for her, was the Witch of Shadows. "I knew you would return," the witch said, her voice soft and mocking. "You belong to the forest now." Elara nodded, tears streaming down her face. She had known, deep down, that this moment would come. The witch stepped forward and placed a hand on Elara's chest, where her heart beat with a desperate, frightened rhythm. "Give yourself to me," the witch whispered, "and you will be free." With a final, shuddering breath, Elara closed her eyes and surrendered to the darkness. The witch's laughter echoed through the forest as Elara's body dissolved into shadows, her soul joining the countless others that had been claimed by Blackthorn Woods. From that night on, the villagers spoke of a new spirit in the forest, a young girl with ebony hair and hollow eyes, who wandered the woods, calling out to those who dared enter. They said she was the forest's guardian, a warning to all who ventured too deep. The tale of Elara and the Witch of Shadows became a part of the village's lore, a story to remind them that some places are best left untouched, and some prices too high to pay. And so, the Blackthorn Woods remained a place of nightmares, where the shadows whispered secrets and the trees bore silent witness to the souls trapped within.